Come on, show me. Yes, there we go. Melody has been added to Fabtcg, so we can start making the deck. Right, we need a good name. How about Curtain Call? Right, seems fitting. But yeah, we can start crafting and thinking about how we're going to put this deck together. Perfect, the songs are here too. Right, so straight away, probably auto-include most of them. Quicken. So I do like the token generation, mainly because the tokens that you generally generate, your opponent can't necessarily plan around them, right? Yes, they might have one or two things to take advantage of them, but they can't premeditate the thought regarding them. And usually the majority of tokens just get popped and, are done. Right, the easiest one to sort of think about is the embodiment of lightning that I generate in my Shiner deck, right? That I actually need the forethought to utilize, because there are so many easy ways for me to pop the go again that I don't necessarily want to make use of. Same with Quicken, right? So Quicken, I really wish they'd add the tokens. I can't see them, can I? If I type in Quicken. Even just, it hover next to the card would be cool. Let me find the token. Right, so Quicken is when you play an attack action card or an attack with a weapon, destroy Quicken, then the attack gains go again. All right. Yes, in certain matchups, it's definitely going to be useful for your opponent, right? For instance, easy one to think about is Dorinthia. Giving the Dawnblade go again is quite substantial given their inbuilt hero effect. But generally speaking, right, your opponent can't plan around this. It might shake things up and might actually disorientate them in what their next line of play might actually be, right? Because now they can have go again. So they're going to think, well, maybe I can do this instead of that. Right, so, there is that sort of nicer element to some sort of token generation that can be, a bit confusing. Okay, so grab all the songs. Right, so far it should be 12, which is pretty good, almost half the deck, especially once we throw in the other combo pieces. Right, so what do we have? We have Quicken, that's fine. Gain life, 1 is not so bad. Vigor is just 1 extra damage, I believe. Might, I'm pretty sure we haven't seen yet. Each hero draws a card. That one could be a bit destructive, right? And then Songs of Yesterday, each other hero puts an attack action card from their graveyard on the bottom of their deck. That's probably useful, right? Or by the time it comes into play, you should hopefully have the setup done. Fingers crossed. Right, so the big one is probably just Songs of the Wandering Mind. Giving your opponent 1 extra card for their turn can be quite devastating. And then, of course, we want Final Act. Now, Encore and Interlude seem cool. I'm going to wait to see if there's any more useful pieces to add. But for now, we'll leave them out. And again, the main thing that I think you want to build around is blue cards, right? So you can really chain your combo through copper, silver, and gold. Speaking of which, we want the Crown of Dominion for a gold token to start off. And then I was thinking Fleetfoot Sandals, right? So destroy it and target attack with 1 or less. Gains go again. Wow, Final Act, look at that. Now has go again. That seems useful. And then probably the Seekers just to destroy, right? Where is it? To be honest, the equipment doesn't really matter. In fact, there's probably something a bit better than Null Rune, right? Because it doesn't get destroyed. So if we do chest... gloves and hood. No, we have hood, right? That's all 4, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, okay. So we have Arcane Barrier, which is nice, right? We're playing a defensive deck. The big thing is because we want to use Cash Out. So Cash Out allows us to destroy any number of weapons, equipment, and or non-token items you control to create silver tokens, right? So silver tokens are pay 3 in draw, meaning that we can go 1 for 1 pitching a card, which is a big thing because we just want to pitch a bunch of cards to get Final Act off. Now, I'm also going to take Cash In, right? Because at the very least, it's 4, so 2 cards to then draw 2 cards. So it's also an even trade in terms of pitching. And then in that scenario, I am contemplating Tome. But the issue with Tome, unlike Cash In, is Cash In has go again, whereas Tome does not. The Gorgarian Tome is just a -1 to your deck, so you might as well run that. We'll grab it for now, right? I think they're the big combo, not combo elements, staple elements, right? And then everything else I think we want to pull from blue. Captain's Call, or what's the other one? Captain's Call is 2 or less, and then what's the other one I'm thinking of? There's another, the inverse, where it's a greater attack, right? And you generate action points. I should be able to type in action points, right? Come on. No. Really? It's going to be harder to find than what I was thinking. Was it Captain's Call? I guess that's coming up. Oh, stupid. Action point, right? Lead the charge. There we go. Next time you play an action card with 0 or greater, gain 1 action point, right? So tome is 1, so we could stick in the yellow lead the charge as a way to combo tome, right? And then it still becomes an even trade. You have to pitch 1, you play 2 cards, you draw 2 cards, right? And then usually you're floating to go into something else. I don't know. It might be worth it. Lead the charge because it's 2 now no longer works. Although it's generate an action point, right? So ideally you could use, cash in, right? Or something else that costs to generate the action points and then use that to play the tome. But yeah, interesting deck tech. Probably go red, weirdly enough, right? Despite us trying to not include red, because then you can play anything to gain the action point and then go into tome, right? You could play a song, gain an action point actually as well, to then chain songs. So I think lead the charge is actually decent. Inclusion, maybe even lead the charge yellow. We'll put it in the sideboard for now. Right, so then the big thing is blue cards, right? What are we filling? Actually, before that, I want to look, right? Anything else that drops or generates copper. Pure Ledger to generate gold kind of seems nice. It's going to be super slow, right? Because you don't go again on it. Knick-Knack, was it? You may destroy. Nope, we don't want that. No, so it doesn't look like there's anything else useful. What about silver? I don't think there's many ways to generate silver, right? There's pick a card, but that seems very unlikely. I mean, you could run the blue just because it's blue and 0, and it's go again anyway. Was it create a silver token if you can name the card in their hand? Play it at the end of your turn to try and force, but we don't really have any huge attacks to pressure, reduce their hand size, and then play pick card. Still, it's blue, so I think I'm just going to include it in the deck anyway. Right? If we can get the silver tokens, it makes it easier to set up. And then gold. Gold tokens is just the ledger. Yeah. If it wasn't red, probably include it. Or, again, yeah. I don't like items as they currently are, right? It seems such a big waste of a turn to play one, especially in Blitz. Maybe it's a bit better in Classic Constructed because you have the high H people. But in Blitz, to play an item, lose a turn just to get the item on the field seems horrible. And then this is even worse because the action doesn't have to go again, like potions or anything like that. Okay, so we'll click on blue. And now we'll figure out what exactly we want to fill up the 15 remaining cards, right? Thinking mainly just defensive cards. Some potions might be nice, right? Like opting. Opting is probably decent as well. Captain's Call, no. Crazy Brew. There's some other good like party cards, right? Not bingo. I'm going to look through. We'll pull out some cards and then we'll discuss our options, if you will. Right, I may have gone a little overboard. Definitely need some cuts. 57. What have I tried to include? Right, cards that allow us to look for X cards, so sift or sink below, so we can get rid of a card. Block with 2 is kind of bad though, in all honesty, right? So, in terms of attacks, I want attacks of pressure. So usually what do I mean by that is, so this has, if it hits, your hero gains 1 intellect until the end turn. That's quite a powerful effect, meaning that your opponent really wants to block all the damage, right? So because of that, it's a card to me that pressures, right? It reduces their hand size and applies pressure, right? So any card that has that sort of effect, not this, dominates, what's something else? Wreak Havoc, I suppose. It depends on the matchup, right? If you're against Ranger, for instance, it's probably more beneficial. Wounded Ball is just 3 for 6, so it's not that great. Do we have any other? There's not that many attacks in this deck altogether. Humble, there you go, that's another one. So you lose all abilities until the end of the next turn, so they'll want to block that. Fighting Spirit is good because you can attack with it for 5, or you can block for 2 and gain 1 back. Destructive Deliberation, create a Ponder token. Ponder token is basically another draw, so it's nice as well, right? So yeah, there's some interesting things. It allows you to see a card and put it to your arsenal, right? Because Ponder happens before the draw phase. Yeah, I don't know about cutting. Probably actually leave it as 57, and we can sort of shape the deck as we see more melody cards. But altogether, right, we should probably just go over the combo once more, because I have thought about it a bit better. And ideally, as long as you can just chain things together, you can go pretty nuts with it. I mean, depending when we play it, right, and how much copper and gold we have built up, 5 of these cards are more draw, right? Which means that, you know, for instance, again, finding cash in, we can pitch most likely 2 more, right? Pop, copper, pop, something, pop, anything else. But don't destroy copper, don't destroy silver, don't destroy gold. Pay the 4, draw 2 cards. So at the minimum, it's 2 cards for 2 cards, minus the cash in, right? And then Tome of Ferendale, you know, comboing them together. You can go positive in drawing cards, which means you can go positive in pitching. And altogether, I have worked it out to something like 81 damage, right? If we get both final acts off. But yeah, the gold from Crown of Dominion is a big thing. And then cashing out your equipment. In fact, that's something we don't need. We don't need more than one, right? So cash out the Null Rune stuff and the Fiddle to gain 3 silver. So 1 gold, 3 silver. Already we can pitch 1 card, pitch 2 cards for the silver, draw 2, pitch 3rd card, right? We're not positive yet. For the other silver, no, because they're always 3, right? So it'd always be pitch 4 cards, right off the go there, right? We draw 4 cards back. We haven't actually lost any cards, right? We're not negative, we're neutral. And we already have 4, so final act is now doing 8, right? And then we chain in however many copper we have, right? And that's the big thing. And then if you find a Tome of Ferendale, you cycle it in, draw your 2 cards. You do need to go again, so that's the complication, but leave the charge, right? Hopefully we find that. You can proc it off of anything and just retain the action points. That is nice. Cash in. Yeah, the big hurdle is sequencing, right? Making sure everything activates in the right manner and conserving the better gold, right? So gold and silver for when you are sort of running out, right? Because again, the biggest mental hurdle now is pitching, right? And doing the mental math straight away. Because off of copper, you pitch 4, so you have to overpitch, meaning you now float 2, meaning if you were to then proc gold, well, it's not going to allow you to pitch, is it? Right? So making sure you keep track of all those numbers and you sequence it correctly is going to be the big learning curve of Melody to me, right? Aside from obviously just managing to get the setup, but altogether, right? To make it viable, 30, 32-ish is where I'm at, right? Maybe 35. 35 damage off of 1 final axe is probably OTK range, for me at least, right? So off of what they can defend with equipment, what they can defend with cards in hand, especially if we're not attacking a lot with the deck personally, right? If Pursuit of Knowledge is our big pressure, they're probably going to fully block it anyway. So it is all about stacking up for final act, which is going to be fun to me, right? This is going to be the fun of it, is getting this off more so than anything, right? Not winning every match, not making a meta perfect deck. That's not my fun. My fun is going nuts, doing something crazy, something gimmicky, and just getting it to land once. Getting it to land once, and I'm golden. Anyway, we'll leave it there, I suppose, right? Hopefully, more cards for Melody come out as the weeks go on, and we can start to, you know, thin things out, tweak things, and yeah, figure out exactly where we're going with this deck and how we're going to generate all the different tokens, right? So it's, again, 1 from a song, we can play the fiddle, so you can generate max 2 per turn, right? You'd have to surrender a token to your opponent. They can pick the one that benefits them better, so that's a bit worse than playing X song. You can generate 2 copper off of that. You start with the gold from the Crown of Dominion. If you find cash out, you can generate 3. So, you know, again, if we're just counting each token for 1 pitch, right? Turn 1, you're at 3. You find cash out, you're at 6, so that's 12 damage. And then every subsequent turn, right, as long as you get a song and not just playing the fiddle, you're getting, you know, another 2. Okay, so it will ramp up somewhat quickly, hopefully, especially if you draw into the right cards straight away. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how exactly it goes down, how it works. You could even just use 1 final act as early game pressure, right? Because you should be able to get it to a decent size that they do have to block. Right, and that's probably going to be the go, and then setting up for the second final act being your finisher. So even just off of the draw elements, like the tome, into draw, into cash in, into draw, right? Again, cash in, paying 2 to draw 2, right, rather than popping tokens, is great in this deck. Because again, it fulfills that pitch element, and you're still going neutral, generally with cards, right? It's a -1 because you have to pay cash in, but then you float the 2 resources that you can then spend for other draw elements, right? Then that could then put you back in the positive aspect, right? Even just popping 1 copper, for instance, you're at 2 cards, 3 cards because you have to pay the extra 2, and you still have enough resources to play the final act and something else, right? That alone seems decent to me. If you could run more copies of final act. If she had Reverence ability, you know, with Chivalry, except it was final act, that would be massive. But we'll see how it goes. I think an adult version of her would be great, right? More turns to set up, more health to set up. That would be awesome. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Let's go nuts. Let's make Melody work. So yeah.